So let's go
Mm.
through the love addiction characteristics here. As we're doing this, guys, and as you're watching, ask yourself where you fall into this category or either or category, and in what relationships you fall into. Because something we might dive into a little bit later is that we can oscillate between the two depending on who we're with. So same like as before, we got the positive cycle and the negative one. Positive one starts out: love addict is attracted to the seduction and apparent power of the love avoidant. Boom. I know I fell for that. We all do. It's like, wow, they really like me. That's amazing. My mom even didn't like me this much. This is incredible. Go to number two. The love addict feels high as the fantasy is triggered. Absolutely. It's like, when they say falling in love, it's actually you're falling out of consciousness and you're going actually more into an egoic state. So this whole like fall in love is amazing thing. Yeah, it's amazing because you lose consciousness and you go into an alternate realm of being high on oxytocin and neurochemicals. So after the high gets triggered, the love addict feels relief from the pain of loneliness, emptiness, and not mattering to a partner. And I think this is a really important one. And in the relationship I just had recently, that's exactly what I felt. I'm like, all the work I've done has finally led to this. Like, I don't have to be, out pursuing anymore or dating. Like, I'm complete. All the emptiness and pain I felt from like, being a child or in high school and being rejected by girls or college or whatever, that's gone. And this is amazing. So because of that, what I did anyway is I was like, okay, I want a little bit more. I'm getting high. I want to get higher, as typical addicts do. And they even mentioned to me, right? So they had mentioned at one point, I really like my space. Like, I don't want to be hanging out all the time. And I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine. But I'm like, this is different. I can push those boundaries. And when I say those boundaries, I meant her boundaries. And that's when the negative cycle started to start. And she started to pull away. So in no way is, as we're saying, she may have been unable to love, but no way was this completely her fault. And like, maybe we could have had an dependent relationship if I had not come at this thing with the love addiction. So moving to the negative intensity cycle here. Before we do you guys have any thoughts on the first four there? Just threw a
Just
lot
do you
at you.
think you were smothering her then, Joel?
Yeah, I was.
No
Yep.
one wants to be smothered, do they? Let's
No.
be honest. So
And,
probably the
and
biggest thing which Mm.
yeah, and what was interesting is like, what like we didn't talk 24/7. We didn't hang out
Mm.
all the time. And when we did text, she did respond positively. So
Okay.
that's what we find too in this pattern is that the love of winning will often like the attention at first, right? But as
Mm.
soon as it like reaches a threshold where they start to have memories from their childhood or being smothered by their parents, that's when the walls come up and they're like, piss off, dude. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't think it's always that they've been smothered as a kid. I think avoidance can happen where they've been trained to almost in a childhood state, in an early year state, where they've been trained to actually live without any pats on the back, without any love. That can create avoidance more than
Oh,
being
okay.
smothered tends to create. Yeah, if you read any of the
Mhm.
kind of psychology, being smothered tends to create an anxious person. So overly mollycoddling a kid
Mm.
will tend to make them super anxious. But no pats on the back will turn them into a almost like an avoidant, because that's their learned behavior, that's their normal behavior. So even
I
though
can,
they crave, they
100%.
don't they
yeah,
handle
I
it.
agree with that assessment. I've experienced a bit of that. So I come from a good family. Like we're all good now. But as a kid, I never really got any attention from either of my parents. I was the oldest son of a single mom, which that we can do a whole episode on what that means, being the surrogate husband and placed in essentially the leadership role of the family at a very young age. So you learn to put others first and never really take care of yourself. So as a kid, I was just home a few weeks ago. I know that I will never hear in my life from anyone in my family, I'm proud of you. You're doing a good job. Like, well done. I know I will never hear any of that. I've accepted that a long time ago. And I think in my earlier dating days, that's something I kind of needed. So I would enter a relationship as the ancient one because or as the ancient, I'm an ancient soul, as an anxious one because I wanted that. I needed that validation. And then once the girl started reciprocating that, so I've been on both sides of the coin too myself. I'm not innocent here. once the girl started reciprocating that, you do feel that pressure, like, oh my God, like this is real now. Like there's something here. But if that behavior has never been modeled for you before, you simply don't know what to do. And then you do, yeah, you feel anxious, but you start to go more into that avoidant type role because it is a bit overwhelming at some point. Whereas in my recent case, she's the one that came on first. I'm like, okay, just kind of, we'll see how this plays out. I'm not quite sure. I still have to get to know you. And then I was like, okay, yeah, I think I kind of dig this chick. I can see a lot in her. I do like. I see a lot of things I like in myself and her. A couple things in myself that I don't like when I was about her age. She's quite a bit younger than me, but I can lead her along the way and I can guide her through that. And okay, yeah, I'll start letting down the wall a bit. And the minute I did that, boom, that's when that switched again. So I've been on both sides of that equation. I think that is a good assessment that if you have never received love, that's where the love addiction comes from, but you don't know what that looks like. And I know we're a bit into this stream, but at some point we can maybe do this in another episode. I was thinking, define what is love. It's like, I know that's a tough.
I love that. What is love?
What is it?
You don't hurt me.
Yeah.
That's like asking what is God? Oh, hint.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, no,
Why it's
go ahead, Derek.
easy to flip flop between anxious and avoidant, even though they are essentially opposites from each other, is a lot of times they're caused by the same thing. So if you have like a parent leave you when you're a child, the anxious or avoidant is just your response to that. You can be now anxiously attached in your upcoming relationships because you don't want them to leave, or you can be avoidant because they're just going to leave me anyway, so I'm not going to get started.
Correct.
So you might come across as anxious at the beginning, and then it starts working, and then you're like, hold on, I'm just in general not secure, so let me be avoidant now. And I noticed that I would do that if I was like fresh out of a relationship and not really over it yet, and then I'd try to start dating again. I would look for, I'd be like anxious, and I'd be like, let me just make sure I can get a girlfriend again, right? And then they'd start reciprocating, and then I'd be like, wait, hold on, I don't know about this. And then I would honestly be a dick, kind of like what Andy was saying before. I'd like flip-flop between nice guy and asshole, but never like right in the middle. And I'd like play back conversations. I'm like, I was just like insulting her insecurities, like as if I'm just trying to be like, I'm trying to get you to leave. Like if you stay through this, like me being weird or just like whatever the hell is coming out of my mouth that I can't even seem to control right now, then I can now trust you that you'll stay. But yeah, I think you can flip flop because they're usually caused by the same thing.
Yeah. It's hard to stay. It's actually hard to be genuine and in the middle. It takes real value. Honestly, it's like the reason why you act like an asshole, because that's a mask again. You're just using tricks and don't text a girl or whatever just to try and use a couple of games. It's manipulation. So it's the same thing as avoidance. It's actually hard to be in the middle, your genuine self, and just put yourself out there honestly and just accept whatever comes. That's actually, and it takes it's like what I said earlier, it takes self-worth.
Yeah. That's what my mentor always tells me, the Australian dude that you thought Andy was. He's like, yeah, man, like you did nothing wrong. Like you were just who you were. And that's okay. And as you continue and getting experience, you're going to get better, and you're just going to not make those decisions anymore. So that was a real relief.